BitSwap is the hottest new way to trade tokens. Crawling all the top decentralized exchanges, BitSwap will get you the very best price and value for your trades. BitSwap is changing the game. Try it now at bitswapdex.com.
Welcome to Rice TVX and the latest episode of the Rice Crypto Show. Today's guest is astrologer and fellow content creator Maren Altman. She is your personal poet for the stars. And today we're going to be talking about Astro crypto and the world of woo. Before we get into it, make sure you visit ricetvx.com and sign up for my mailing list so you never miss an update or new Rice TVX content. Plus, you can find my social media links, contact information, get Rice TVX merch coming soon via the shop, and more. If this is your first time ever watching any of my videos, check out and explore my channels. Make sure you subscribe to Rice TVX and Rice TVX2, both can be found on YouTube, and hit the notification bell to get alerted to new videos. Also, you can follow me on Odyssey and Library, where I have my full catalog of videos plus extra content. And you can also find Rice TVX on BitChute. If you want to support Rice TVX and what I do directly, I have my PayPal, Cash App, plus my cryptocurrency addresses via my Cointree link below in the video description. You can also join my Patreon channel, where you will get early access to some of my videos, exclusive content, and more, with 4 different levels of membership, all offering something different. If you are looking to purchase and invest in precious metals, gold and silver are both good safe haven assets to hedge against the financial collapse we are experiencing. Check out Money Metals Exchange. I partnered up with them and you can get a free half ounce of silver. Visit moneymetals.com, be a first time buyer, purchase a minimum of $100, and use the promo code RICE. You get a free half ounce of silver, and it's another way to support the channel. I will include links down below for everything I just mentioned, as well as everything I talk about on today's show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me on today's episode of the Rice Crypto Show is Maren Altman. She is an astrologer. More specifically, she is involved in Astro crypto. Maren, I appreciate you accepting my invitation to come on today. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you again for accepting the invitation. I was definitely looking forward to this conversation. And we were talking a little bit before we started recording, but I didn't mention this to you. I had found you originally because of one of your appearances on BitBoy Cryptos Around the Blockchain. And then I found what you were doing to be interesting. So I started looking into your social media, started checking out your YouTube channel, and wanted to have this conversation with you because I told you I'm an open-minded skeptic, but I'm very open to the woo. And I'm very open to the ideas of what astrology represent, especially when it comes from a historical and human standpoint, how it affects us individually and collectively. So, and I'd like to kind of get your take on cryptocurrency, obviously, but I guess before we begin, do you kind of mind giving people a little bit of background on who you are?
Yeah, so I grew up very interested in astrology. It was always something I pretty much was reading from the get-go as soon as I learned to read. It was just what I was very, very interested in learning about. Did not grow up in a family that had anything to do with anything astrology, anything that was occult. I mean, dad worked in like car dealership real estate. Like it wasn't even that weird either. It was just me growing up as a kid, interested in these things. And I grew up being an actor. But when I was like out as a teenager at parties, I was always offering readings and just kind of making a little bit of money that way. And then once I got to college, university for acting, I decided I wanted to do a bit of a 180 and randomly study philosophy. I mean, it was a long time coming. I could see that's what I did on my free time growing up, as I read things that you could be considered like philosophical, or ethics was more what I focused on. And with that came understanding that I really liked studying astrology in correlation with world events like long-term cycles. And then as soon as I was graduating from university in 2020, I found finance and found crypto and immediately wanted to put that into tracking those cycles. So I'm not the first person doing this. I'm not novel by any means. I just, because of me and my like character and my presentation, have blown up online.
Right. Well, I mean, it makes sense though. I mean, you've got a different take on it. I've seen some people do things like you're mentioning. And a lot of times it's older people and they don't relate to younger people.
Yeah.
So you being younger, I think, kind of helps with that whole element as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of bringing in a new perspective to what you're doing, to a completely different demographic that other people aren't reaching.
Yeah.
Because you don't really
Yeah.
hear younger people talk about these kind of things.
Yeah, I think in a weird way, I was studying patterns and cycles for so much of my life towards stepping into finance and being someone that's always been kind of business minded. And also, a lot of finance, I just consider it energetic maintenance in the way that you are trying to build up energy and not lose energy. Like money is just commodified energy in a way, it's value. And so, being someone that thinks in terms of like percentages, data, just very, very numerical or kind of not necessarily numerical. I mean, I barely pass math classes technically, but like I think in terms of like hard and fast data and statistics often. And dealing with that for a lot of what I track in astrology, which is important to me to be able to verify and see like the accuracy of what I'm saying and whatnot, that just catered very well to finance and crypto specifically. So it was a weird meshing of many different interests and like predisposition that allowed me to get into the space so quickly. But also growing up with like people like my family came from Poland, and that like a lot of what happened during World War II involved devaluation of currency. And so I just remember like hearing about that and being aware of that growing up. And so immediately I think I was ingrained with an understanding of things that normally people my age would not be aware of, and a perspective that just was very, yeah, weird. It came together very weirdly, but it fascinates me, and it's like a sustainable fascination where I can tell that this is impactful for the long term.
No, I would 100% agree. And I was going to kind of mention the Polish thing, about Poland towards the end of the video, but since you brought it up,
Yeah.
I figure it's good to go ahead and mention this. But I will have links down below for all the social media, all of Marin's social media sites that I'm sharing on today's video. But I read that it was, your grandmother was a Holocaust survivor.
Yeah, she was. She was the only person that survived in her family in Poland, and the Houston Holocaust Museum has, like, an exhibit dedicated to her. She's, like, bomb. I mean, like, growing up, she had this, like, big blonde hair, like, came from Poland, but, like, demanded luxury. I mean, she's, like, iconic, and she died 3 and a half, no, 3, it'll be 4, 3, 4 years ago. I forget. I think it was 2018, so a little over 3 years ago, but she's incredible, and that was, like, such a big influence on me because it was just, like, take no shit, work, don't, like, kill yourself over working so hard. But there's definitely an emphasis on like working and then enjoying yourself, and a kind of mindset to like build up energy. And I just remember hearing about things growing up in Poland and like little details about currency and economy going downhill that I wouldn't have known to apply had I not really entered this space.
Well, and it kind of sucks some of the things that we have to experience growing up. Obviously, you didn't have to deal with the ramifications of the
Right.
currency devaluation, but you growing up, hearing about that gives you a different insight that the everyday normal person, especially somebody who grows up specifically in the United States with parents who aren't new immigrants. Obviously, everybody who came to the United States is immigrants for
Right.
the most part, but people
Right.
who's been in a country for quite some time, don't have that relationship. And I've actually heard that from a couple different people.
Yeah.
Nick Zabos, one of the people that they suspect is the Satoshi Nakamoto. He's from Hungary. His family's from Hungary, so they experienced something very similar as well. And also,
Yeah.
speaking of that, the Satoshi thing, today we're recording the interview on the 3rd of January. It's going to get released on Thursday or Friday this week, but today is a very significant day because some people call it Bitcoin's birthday.
Yeah.
I call the date the white paper of the birthday, but either way, it was January 3rd, 2009 that the first Bitcoin block was mined, and we call it the Genesis block. The white
Yeah.
paper was written and came out on Halloween of 2008. And then January 3rd, 2009, the first Bitcoin was mined, creating the Genesis block. So it's a very awesome day. It's something really cool to commemorate.
Yeah.
All right. So okay. You mentioned growing up being interested in astrology. Were your parents religious or spiritual in any aspects?
No, I mean, my dad's side
Yeah.
was Jewish, my mom's side was Christian, but, like, no one practiced. I grew up going to
Okay.
Christian school technically, but, like, that was just a formality. It was like chapel every day. I learned a lesson or whatever. So I wouldn't even consider myself the most, like, what I do is I look at patterns and cycles. There are much more spiritual astrologers out there. I literally don't claim any type of authority compared to the magnitudes to which people are spiritually in touch. I'm just looking at cycles and patterns, and that's like what
I was
interests
just
me. But
curious
not,
as a
yeah,
younger girl growing up, if there was like any, because from a Christian perspective, they would have been like, "Oh, this is of the devil." So I wasn't sure if like you grew up with like any kind of kickback from your parents when it came to that aspect.
yeah. I think I was in, I guess, like a not too hard and fast old school type community to where like even like school I went to like Baptist Episcopalian school, Baptist and Episcopalian, and like no one really, they were like cool like astrology, like there was I've just never dealt with religious fundamentalism, so yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. I respect
Yeah,
that. I would just like I live here in North Carolina, so I can only imagine someone growing up in North Carolina because it's the Bible Belt, the South.
yeah, I was in Houston, so I don't know, a little bit more of like there's just a, it's a, like a business city, so it's a lot of like, I don't know, comparable to
Makes
Chicago or
sense.
New York. Yeah.
So I noticed that your YouTube channel started in 2014. When you originally started your channel, I don't think it had anything to do with crypto. What was your original intention with your YouTube channel?
I didn't, I had a channel technically just for the account, but I did not post until 2019.
Okay.
So, I mean, technically my channel was there, but I didn't post until 2019, I believe, and it was just like astrology forecast and horoscopes, and then early 2020 is when I started getting into crypto.
And what specifically, so 2020 is a time period, what specifically got you involved in crypto?
January 2020 was my last semester in college, and I knew I needed to start just researching like general investing or financial literacy. Like I'd never in a million years knew anything about that. I knew how to be a saver and have like a debit card, but I knew that's not how you build wealth. And I knew that like I'm not someone who's gonna live a normal, like no, I'm gonna learn how to do this. And so I started learning about like index funds and like just the simplest, most beginner things, index funds, single family properties, like the boring stuff. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll own like a couple properties and like, I don't know, some up and coming suburban market and have like a 10% yield a year on like 10K. Like I can do that or something stupid. Like I was just thinking about how do I at all begin to generate a bit of return on like the couple grand I have saved up.
Mhm.
Um, during the March 2020 crash, I was like, this is the perfect time to actually do something. So I entered the market. I opened up what I thought was a retirement account. It was not apparently, and it was, I don't even know what I did, but apparently I put my life savings into like a Tesla call option or something, which ended up being amazing. Like it ended up being great, but literally I had no idea what I was doing. Like absolutely nothing. I thought I opened a
Wow.
retirement account. I called them. I'm like, guys, I need to exit. They're like, you can't exit this. I was like, what are you talking about? So from that inefficiency, I learned about Bitcoin. I was just like, what else is there? Turns out I had put $50 into Bitcoin in high school. I don't remember ever doing this, but my Robinhood showed that. So apparently I did that, but that was my entry into crypto.
Okay. How much do you mind me asking how much that $50 grew?
Sorry.
Are you fine? You
I'm
okay?
choking on myself. I think it was like $200 when I last checked.
Okay, that's not bad. That's still pretty cool. I mean, it's awesome when you get to see the valuation of your investments
Yeah.
grow.
Yeah.
And then you get to see, and then you realize on the flip side, it's not just 100% of Bitcoin growing in value, it's also the fiat currency losing value.
Yeah, yeah. Like I have no memory of ever buying Bitcoin. Like I literally have no idea how I did it, but I know that I checked and it was like 2017, 2018. It was either high school or my first year of college because I think I said high school and then someone checked and they're like Bitcoin wasn't available until right when you entered college. So either 2017 or 2018 I bought it and it was up like 4 to 5x. So I think I bought around like 5k when Bitcoin was 5k. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. That's awesome. I was
Yeah.
noticing too, I didn't realize how much of a following you had on Twitter until I was pulling up your links before the interview. 1.1 million followers. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I don't know, space rocks get a lot of attention, so it's kind of
Well, no,
weird.
I mean, it's good. It gets to bring attention to crypto and it gets to bring
Yeah,
attention to what astrology is all about and the
yeah,
combination of the two. Are you talking
yeah.
about just the Astro crypto on TikTok?
I talk about astrology itself, crypto itself, and then both, so whatever is really relevant.
Okay. Is it, if somebody wants to check out your content for the very first time and they haven't heard about you, do you recommend to check out your TikTok and or your YouTube, or are they different? Are they the same aside from longer videos on YouTube?
Yeah. TikTok is a lot less serious because it's what I consider top of the funnel. I'm getting shown to anyone and everyone, whether or not they know anything about astrology or crypto. So it's where everything I've ever, everything I have is because of TikTok. I had 200
Okay.
followers to my name until joining TikTok summer 2020, basically.
Mm,
So I TikTok is just like my less serious. You can tell that there must be more to what I do, but no one's going to sit through a YouTube video if they're on TikTok. Like there's a difference. So TikTok is funny, it's less serious, and then YouTube's where the real content is, which is
okay.
probably just as cringe, but like if I know someone, I'm like, don't watch my TikTok. But like in all honesty, it's probably where most 99% of people find me.
Well, it's obviously it's a popular application, and it seems like a lot of people's
Yeah,
attention spans are just going away. So,
mine's terrible. Yeah.
with that being said, I mean, so like I have videos, like I just re-released. I was telling you I'm re-releasing a bunch of old interviews, and I did 7 interviews with John McAfee, and I put all 7 interviews with unedited footage
Yeah.
that was never released. And
Wow.
that was like 3 hours and 20 minutes long. You know,
Yeah.
with really good content, people will stay tuned into longer videos, but especially when there's a lot of valuable information that people want to learn about. But it seems like with the
Yeah.
crypto videos, people just do not have a large attention span.
Yeah.
Just sad.
Yeah. It's definitely short term.
It's very sad. But and then obviously, you know, I'm gonna have links down below for your Twitter and your Instagram accounts as well. And on your YouTube channel, there is a link for a free Astro Basics workbook, and then links to your website and your other social medias. Do you want to talk a little bit about what this Astrology Basics and Transit workbook is?
Yeah, as soon as I started blowing up, I had people asking so many questions. So I was like, let's make a workbook so that the beginner, like no idea what astrology is, can gain a little bit of knowledge into what I'm talking about when I talk about it. So, kind of a bullet point, just like basic bare bones of astrology, so that anyone who's brand new can take it, read it for a few minutes, and be like, okay, so this is what all the words she's saying mean.
Okay. So it's a 38-page document. I downloaded it myself, so this way I could get a little bit more familiarity about what it is exactly you do. So I definitely encourage people who are wanting to learn more
Thanks.
about what astrology is to take advantage of the free download from your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to ask you was your most recent video that you put out today. It's entitled Full Moon in Cancer. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that means and um, for the approaching time period that we are in?
Yeah. Just on like a collective level.
A collective, and then if you want to kind of take it into like a crypto element.
Yeah, there's a lot of like astrological transits, and by transits I mean planetary alignments that deal with rethinking tangible values, whether that is supplies, like resources in the world, and also how we manifest what we value in our own lives. There's what's called a Venus retrograde, so if anyone's interested, they can look more into that. But there's a lot of tying up the past 2 years going on right now. Like, actually, there's a lot of repetition of what would have started January 2020 and is now a lot of the cyclical things are ending or taking on a new form. So, rethinking values, whether tangibly with like currency, natural resources, supply lines, and also in our own lives interpersonally, that it's the most serious time of the year, definitely.
Yeah, the reason I wanted to ask that was because I hadn't had a chance to watch the fullness of that video, and then you had made some. I don't know if you want to call them predictions based off of your astrology work towards the end of December, where you were calling for not necessarily a crash, but uh, a price drop somewhere around the 30th of December. Was that right?
Yeah, 28th to 30th was I said caution around the 28th. I thought the 30th would be worse. It wasn't, but 28th to 30th.
Okay. When you look at astrology, do you look at it on combination of short term and long term bases?
Yeah, you can look at different time frames.
What do you, as far as your studying and your research, what are you seeing for crypto in the short term?
I don't see a possible trend reversal until middle to late January. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's a downtrend until proven otherwise. And then, middle of January, I see the possibility for a bit of a correction up. I do think it's a bit of a muted few months, not only based on the astrology, but if you actually look at how overextended certain charts are, like in my opinion, they're just like, I mean, of course, there'll be things that go up, and maybe we're rotating into like a completely different asset class as the narrative grows. But a lot of things are very overextended, and I think we've been kind of like the market has been on drugs or like handheld for so long that I just think there's a few months of being bored.
Do you do any actual like TA work?
Oh yeah, always, always.
Okay, so
Astrology,
you're not
whether I
just
do
basing
something.
everything on astrology.
Oh, absolutely not. No, 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 no. The majority of like what I stream is actually TA. Like I throw out the astrology and like show that in videos, but then whenever I'm streaming, I'm like showing my trades and execution. That's the only really way that you can apply this.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
cool. I wasn't sure if because I know a lot of people that are doing this from a Astro crypto point of view don't seem to be adding in like technical
Mm.
analysis, or it's all just based on just a feelings, I guess, or intuition of what they think is going to happen based off reading the charts and reading the stars and the alignments. And again, I've always found that fascinating because they say there's nothing new under the sun and everything happens in cycles. Do you notice that since you've gotten involved with astrology?
Yeah, yeah, everything's very cyclical, and I think that's the major underlying thing that compels me to keep studying it more and more is because there's no causation involved. There's no like reason the planets aren't making anything happen, but they are good indicators for cycles and different time frames on those cycles, depending on what we're looking at.
Okay. And as far as astrology itself, is there a specific type of astrology that you focus on?
I use what's called tropical astrology. So there's two different zodiacs or ways of measuring the sky. The sidereal zodiac measures the sky based on the fixed stars, and the tropical zodiac measures the sky based on the equinoxes, essentially the seasons. They're both very valid. They're just tracking different things. So I use the tropical zodiac, and I also use a lot of terms or techniques that are associated with Hellenistic or Greek astrology. So that's kind of the vein that I've gone in. Yeah.
Okay. So I've heard some people in this element talk about the expansion of the universe. And with that, a moving of the stars or a shifting of the alignments of things. Have you ever heard of that? And is it possible that we are, like I told you before we started that I'm a Taurus, but if everything has changed and shifted, am I really a Taurus based off my birth date and such?
So, something called the precession of the equinoxes is perpetually happening, where the Earth's wobble on its axis moves us a little bit every year, very, very, very slightly, away from the fixed stars. So, what we're measuring with the tropical zodiac based on the seasons will mean that you're always a Taurus sun sign based on the tropical zodiac because the seasons themselves are not changing. That we will always have a sun because it's where the sun is hitting essentially on the Earth based on the seasons. So based on the tropical zodiac, like it's kind of a straw man argument that a lot of people try to pull. Oh, your sign has changed. No, we're literally measuring something that cannot change unless the seasons disappear. So the
Right.
seasons themselves are dictating that. Expanding universe, that's beyond me. That is beyond me. I
Right.
have no comments, but I do know that the zodiac that we're measuring is based on the seasons. So you are, for all intents and purposes, a Taurus sun. Yeah,
Okay. That makes sense when you explain it from that aspect. And that was one of the
yeah,
reasons why I wanted to ask.
yeah.
But do you think that it is potentially possible though that we have expanded to that point, or does that not make any sense to you?
I mean, the universe could be expanding, and it wouldn't really have anything to do with the sun, like the Earth's orbit around the sun and signs.
Right. That's kind
Yeah,
of where I was thinking. It doesn't seem like it would change anything on like a micro
yeah,
level
yeah,
when
yeah,
it comes to like our universe in conjunction. It just seems like if everything would expand and it would be the same mathematically, however you want to
yeah,
work it out.
yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. Something I did want to mention that I meant to say at the beginning of the video, your personal poet for the stars. How did you come up with that? I really like that.
It just sounded cool. I don't know. I come up with
Just
a lot of
sounded cool.
taglines. Yeah, it just sounded cool. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I can deal with that. All right. Well, I think that there was one more thing that I did want to ask. You had mentioned, I was asking also about long term, I guess, just for this year. What are you kind of forecasting for crypto in general, just kind of for 2022?
So, like I said, beginning part of the year just looks a little boring. I think end of January we could see a bit of a price reversal, but I'm not looking to actually have particularly as intense of a year or a run up. I think that there will be asset classes, like non astrologically, I'm looking at certain asset classes, but particularly for Bitcoin, I just see it as a more muted year. I think that that could just be the extended cycles and the equity style curves that are now indicating like there's just not the FOMOing in that I think validates a blow off top. There's the institutional interest that will turn into more equity style curves. And I think that that validates kind of the astrology I see where there's some nice things coming up like April, May time, I would say. Summer looks kind of difficult again, as does it looks very mixed, which leads me to think that there's a bit of complacency, particularly around Bitcoin, because that's the most contextual chart that I can use. Anything else kind of isn't as just relevant. But I do think that, I think if I'm honest, a lot of L1s look very overextended. And I think that there'll be a cool off time necessary. So for at least the beginning part of the year until the spring, I'm looking for other things besides like the more traditional, well-known plays.
Okay. So you're not seeing all-time highs in Bitcoin in 2022?
I wouldn't say that because maybe nearing the end of the year, like maybe the September, October, November time. Um, and I know a lot of people will say I'm just saying this because it's a bottom signal or whatever, but like, no, honestly, I mean, January up, I see a bit of reversal. April, May is nice again, but I don't necessarily, and just logically, I think we need a major narrative catalyst. If like I'm wondering what the narrative catalyst will be. I'm not bearish on Bitcoin by any means on a fundamental level. I
Right.
just with the astrology being kind of meh, it's not bad, but just kind of like a
Well,
level out.
in retrospect, from looking at 2021, did you was it written in the stars that Bitcoin was going to hit all-time highs in 2021? Especially like, I guess we technically hit all-time highs once, but we hit around the same area twice. So was that something that you had that was written in the stars before that you were able to foresee in astrology using astrology in
So I was
2021?
able to see the really bullish times, but myself in the TA overestimated what those prices would be. I see it as a noob mistake. I thought 80 to 100K easy programmed. Then we crashed back down to like 50, 60K. I thought that was more what I would see. So astrology can tell us the fundamentals and the sentiment, but it takes the TA to actually gauge the levels. And I overestimated that openly. I thought 80 to 100K May. Oh, then 80 to 100K November. No, it didn't happen. So now
Right.
I'm more conservative. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I respect that. I do.
Yeah.
Now, from a TA point of view, you mentioned the idea of extended cycles, and I don't know if you said super cycles, but extended cycles would be the cycles getting longer each time period, and
Yeah.
then the super cycle is just kind of like a continuous thing. And if I look at 2021 in retrospect, it kind of resembles what I would think a super cycle would kind of look like: ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. And it's just like never going to have that 2.5, 3 year bear period. It just feels like with the economy being like it is, with everything happening globally, the buildup of inflation, the possibility of trying to deflate the market, it only seems like it's going to be positive for things like cryptocurrency. And I'm also a strong proponent of gold and silver too. I don't know how you
Yeah,
feel
I
about
agree
gold and
largely
silver.
that, I think it's easy to say this time's different, but, like, no, actually, I think the institutional interests will both keep us from a blow off top and keep us from a multi-year bear market. Like, I think it just keeps us in this, like, rolling hills kinda style chart that it's Bitcoin is no longer, I guess, the like FOMO retail place to go. I don't know anyone that's like new to crypto that is like, oh yeah, Bitcoin 1.5 to 2x over the next year, phenomenal gains. Like, no,
Right.
they're not entering with that. So I think countries and like institutions will keep it afloat. And unless there's a big narrative shift, and I don't know, suddenly there's like a central bank digital currency, and everyone's like, I need Bitcoin instead. I don't know, could happen. But for the time being, I think that we can have these extended cycles with like mini narratives and asset classes that really take over, like the metaverse, or I would consider NFTs to be where the euphoria went. Instead of 2017 ICOs, I would consider it NFTs. So I think the extended cycles, and I don't like to use the word super cycle just because I don't know what it fucking means. Like, how do you
Right.
define, like, when is it super and when is it not?
Right. When does it end? Right. Yeah.
Right, right.
How do you
So
define it?
yeah, whereas extended, that's easy. That says like it's beyond the 1 year bull, 3 year bear, whatever. Like that's extended. That's fairly, it can extend in many different ways. So I see more of that. So I think that the level of adoption will keep things like extending, and why I'm not scared about Bitcoin like dumping. And then that doesn't mean the entire, it will mean the entire market corrects, but there will always be the, like, I don't know, random asset class that is a narrative at the time.
That makes sense. And honestly, I'm glad I got to have this conversation with you because now I know that you're much more than Astro crypto. And because it's just from looking at everything from a surface level without
Yeah,
really digging into it, that's what I kind of was expecting.
yeah,
I was really surprised to know that you were doing some TA, which I think is it's
yeah,
really important to add that aspect in to bring as many
yeah.
different perspectives.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, it's easy to make calls. It's harder to put your money where your mouth is and show actually how you're doing that. And like I just don't have the energy not to be transparent. I'm openly like, I have a Telegram channel and I'm like entering this trade. Ooh, stopped out. Oh, like bad. Like I don't know. I don't know why I wouldn't be transparent. And so I get on stream like once or twice a week and show my like execution of my trades as well, because I just trade support resistance. I use some other indicators, but pretty simple. Yeah.
And I love your attitude. My only channel on this fucking app. Beware scammers,
No,
please.
the scammers are so insane. I
Oh,
don't think I
I
can
know how
even
it
begin
is.
to explain. No, on my TikTok with like over 1 million followers, I don't know if you can see, but like it's the same account. Let me try to show this. It's the same account replying to all comments, pretending to be me. There'll be another one that comes up, I'm sure. I'm
Oh wow.
sure. Like it's oh yeah, the same one, my profile picture. It doesn't even matter. You can tell it's like the same account and just replies. That's all they do. That's all they do. And these kids don't know any better, so they're always like they get mad at the scammer. They're like, "How dare you ask me for money, Marin?" Like I'm like, it's not me. It's insane. So, yeah.
I was noticing your Instagram too. I have to ask, like, do you do modeling and stuff? I know you said you were an actress.
I've never done any official modeling. I've just always posted pictures of myself, and no one cared until I blew up with like
Right.
astrology. So like people claim that like, oh, you just blew up because of what you look like. I'm like, no, bitch. I took pictures alone in a dorm room for like 3 years. No one cares until I started talking about like the election and Bitcoin or whatever. So I don't technically, but I mean now being in crypto and working with a lot of like NFT photographers, usually I'll work with photographers wherever I go. So
Okay.
yeah.
That's cool. I mean, I respect you being open and honest about it. I did
Mm,
notice too, I just got a few more things and we'll wrap up.
yeah.
On your Twitter account, you had this little video right here where one, you're listening to metal and you have you're listening to Alice in Chains with an Alice in
Yeah.
Chains poster in the background. Are you a metalhead? Do you like, is
I
metal your
really
thing?
like 90s and 2000s rock, so I wouldn't consider myself a metalhead, but Alice in Chains and Nirvana are some of, and like Blink-182. I go more into like pop punk than metal, I'd say. So like
Okay.
I'm also a big Pierce the Veil fan, but I love Alice in Chains.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
a great band.
yeah.
All right. I like the pajamas. I used to identify as an anarchist. I try not to identify very much of anything anymore.
I understand. Yeah.
But that word is kind of got hijacked by our mainstream media turning it into
Everything
something that
gets hijacked. You can't
yeah.
claim to be anything anymore. I thought I heard about libertarianism through Bitcoin. I was like, "Oh, this sounds reasonable." Then you're like, then apparently that is like the word. I was like, "Jesus Christ, you can't claim to be anything anymore. It's all hijacked. It's just a mess." But I similarly like the pajamas. Yeah.
Do you like the ideals of what anarchy represents?
Yes, because I really like simplicity. Like I have Occam's razor tattooed on me, and I think the simplest path to peace is often not putting obstacles or boundaries up and letting people resolve issues on their own. Like people are fucking naturally peaceful. Like anarchism simply means lack of central government. It doesn't mean uprising in and of
No.
itself. Like people do not fight unless they have something to fight against. If you just let people deal with their own problems, and this is why it's kind of it's a bit of a utopian idea. I understand that in practice you probably need some sort of structure to settle out issues in today's world, but like logically I think that the simplest path to peace is like not blocking people from that. I don't know. I just I throw my hands up
No,
for that.
no, I like it. I mean, that'd be cool to add those kind of elements into your content if you feel like it suits you. I definitely agree with what you're saying. And
Yeah.
from the etymology point of view, I studied a lot from this guy named Mark Passio. If you've never seen any of his content, he's a Philly guy, and he teaches a lot about natural law, anarchy, hermetics. He
Yeah.
used to be involved in the satanic church, got away from it, so he has a really unique perspective on
Yeah.
how things operate, and he teaches a lot about what anarchy means truly. And from the etymology point of view, from the Greek, it's two words. You have an and archon, and the word "an" means no or without, and archon means master or ruler.
Right.
So it literally means no ruler, no master.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the best way for me to try to explain that to somebody logically without using those words is most people are familiar with kings and
Are you gonna say
queens.
Burning Man? Oh, okay, I thought you were gonna say Burning Man. That's what I use to explain to people.
Well, give me the Burning Man reference.
Well, I just describe how people are peaceful and interacting in, like, a space together without the need for, like, punishment, that they are very, very peaceful and kind, and you can just be weird and barter and have this, like, lack of meddling with things, and that's why people love Burning Man. It's like they feel free. Why do they feel free? There's, like, a lack of punishment over your shoulder.
It's like a Grateful Dead show. I've never
Yeah,
been to
yeah,
Burning Man, but I know what Burning Man represents.
yeah, yeah,
But I have been to Dead shows, and that whole mentality is
yeah,
very cool
yeah.
mentality. So yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I wasn't sure if you were wearing it because it was a cool fashion statement or if you actually knew what it meant. I had to ask.
Both. Yeah, I feel weird wearing or listening to things I can't describe. Like, I would feel really stupid. So, like, I'm kind of intentional with, like, "Oh, I wearing this band shirt because I can say I like the band." Like, it would embarrass me if I was not able to speak for myself. So I'm, like, very curated with what I, yeah, post with that.
No, you seem like a very meticulous lady, and I appreciate that. I do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I really enjoyed the conversation. I would definitely like to be able to do this again. And I guess, again, links will be down below for everything we talked about. And I encourage people to check out your social medias and definitely subscribe to your YouTube channel and follow you on TikTok. Do you have any final thoughts, anything that you want to add before we do wrap up today's video?
I encourage everyone to, what would I recommend for the year ahead? I'd say beginning of the year is really serious. It gets a little bit lighter in the spring and then more confusing in the summer. So if you can, try to start things, launch things, do as much as you can from the February into April period. That's pretty much the most conducive time of the year. That's when I'll be trying to, like, grind out as well.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate that again.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, bear with me 1 second, Maren. I want to wrap things up and stop recording. So ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time ever watching any of my videos, be sure to check out and explore my channel. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll always encourage you to be the change by practicing change.